What's up, gentlemen? Happy to see everybody back for another episode of the Blind Pig Podcast, courtesy of bgobsession.com. If you've been here before, thanks for coming back. We always appreciate you. If you're new to us, the Blind Pig Podcast is just a bunch of buddies saying bye to Dan Snyder, sitting around talking football. So pour yourself a drink and listen along. You can find us on all major audio platforms as well as on YouTube if you're watching. Catch us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course at our home site, bgobsession.com, where we have all kinds of fun, old school message board type of things, including game chats and contests and just overall fun on the site. So please register it up. Come hang out. We always enjoy new members. So, all right, fellas. I guess we can dive right into this thing. First off, I'd like to put out the good news that the guy that got recorded assaulting the random Commanders fans in downtown Baltimore after the game last night has not only been let go from his job, but he is apparently having some conversation with Baltimore's finest. So that was good to see. I don't know if you guys did. You guys see that clip going around Twitter?
Yeah,
I did not see it, Derek. I was.
Oh, dude, he's this guy in a Lamar Jackson jersey, just total meathead. Walks up on a guy wearing a Sean Taylor jersey and just walks up, kicks him in his butt one time, and then just cold cocks him. That guy falls out just cold against a car, and then he jumps on another guy. It was all recorded. And then he's walking down the street bragging. It was just,
disgusting. And of course, he picked out two Commander fans who are much smaller than him, too.
They were half his size. Yeah, absolutely.
I got no time for that, man. I won't bore you guys with this story, but, I took my 10-year-old son, my beloved son, my only son, when Gibbs came back, and we went to the playoffs. I guess it was that first year, 2005, I think. But we went to Seattle for a playoff game, and I actually met one of the BGO guys. I think Chris or Monty Coleman 51, as we knew him back then, met him out there, and he had brought his son out to Seattle. We just happened to stay in the same hotel, but we had some. I swear to God, that fan base, that was the most miserable experience ever. I had people with my 10-year-old right there next to me, getting in my face, telling me they were going to kill me, spitting on me, shouting, dropping F-bombs on me. There were some nice Seattle fans, but I would say, and I had security guards like 5 feet away that watched the whole damn thing. And I was actually glad we lost that game because I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to get out of here. And
we won it.
It's one thing if you're by yourself, because if I by myself, I'd probably be in prison after that game. But I wasn't by myself, so I had to maintain. But I just hate that fan. You are not a great fan if you're getting in other fans' faces. You're just an ass.
Mm-hmm.
You're just an overly aggressive, drunk ass. Like, grow up. It's a game. It should be a family environment. And I'll just say it right now. The NFL is way behind on like fan security and monitoring the stands and throwing people out that don't know how to act. Because that just
This happened like on the street, like 3 hours after the game. It's dark outside. You know what I mean? Like you could tell what they were doing because the guy in the background is screaming, "We got stragglers! We got stragglers!" So like they were literally just it was targeted.
Right? Yeah, it felt like those Baltimore fans were like looking for someone to beat up. Is the way I interpreted the audio on that tape. It was bad.
Yeah. So, and to your point, John, like when I'm in the stadium, if there's an opposing fan around me, I'll walk up and shake their hand and say, "Hey, here, the next 3 hours is not personal." Just jokingly around to break the ice.
A little bit of ribbing, shit talking, ribbing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, I wish we could get back to when it was actually, that there's no room for that. Honestly, there's no room for it to get physical. But speaking of physical, Derrick Henry was rather physical over the weekend with our defense. I'll just go out there and put it out there and say it. I kind of expected it. I was not disappointed because it was an expectation. Obviously, I was disappointed. I wanted to win. But let's be real. Derrick Henry's going to Derrick Henry. You know what I mean? Lamar Jackson is going to Lamar Jackson. That team is a Super Bowl contender. And as far as I'm concerned, we were never really a puncher's chance out of that fight. You know what I mean? So I think we ended up right along where we should be in the Actually, I think we're ahead of where we should be in this rebuild or retool or whatever Dan Quinn's calling it. But I still think, I'm proud of my boys. I think it ended about as well as we could have hoped.
Yeah, last week I had it almost perfectly called. I said we would never have a lead, and we never did. And but in my scenario, we dramatically drove down the field and scored, and maybe we threw an extra two-point conversion in there to win the game, but that didn't happen. But I will say this: I just want to tell this. I want to say it in front of Derek because we do an in-game chat, and Bob, who was there also. But we do an in-game chat every week on BGO, and it gets pretty. It's Derek and I were texting during the game because it was getting pretty hot and heavy in there, and when you're chatting during the game, a lot of times it's more emotion talking, and you'll hear from Mark in a little bit from Bavaria that he was getting pissed off at some of what he was seeing. Because in the moment, you're not really focused on, well, it's the first season of a huge rebuild. You just want them to win, man. And so there was a lot of, well, let's put it this way. The chat room, you can pretty much count on overreaction to the max. And I will even confess, I'll just put it out there. I was overreacting in the moment because I was so irritated that about the 10th reception that Flowers had against St. Just, I about lost my shit. And the thing is, it's not St. Just's fault that he is not a top tier cornerback. It's not his fault. He's put in that role. He's doing the best he can within his abilities. So it's not for me to call out, Benjamin St. Just, but I thought we might be able to pull out a win, steal one. So I was getting bent out of shape, but that's just part of we're fans, right? Sometimes we show our rear ends and we say stuff that in the long run isn't really probably all that relevant. But I think you're right, Derek. We had somebody said on the board that we were not outclassed. Yeah, we were. Because I hate to break it to you guys, but the Ravens are in another class than we are right now. They're in a class where we want to get to, but we're not there yet. We just don't have the horses to be there yet. So it's not a judgment statement. It's not like a value statement like, oh, we got outclassed. We didn't get outworked, but they just have better talent than we do. And they don't have gaping holes in their roster at some spots like we do. So I do think we got outclassed, and I think we probably all saw it coming to a certain extent. But I'm with Derek. I was proud. The big difference I saw, and then I'll shut up and let somebody else say something. The big difference I saw is that the defense, as vulnerable as it was at times, they didn't roll over in the second half and give up like 28 straight points. And that's what we would have seen in previous years. We would have seen like a game effort for a half, and then we would have seen the team totally collapse and we get shellacked on the scoreboard. And that did not happen at all. So I give them a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, and that happened in the second half without John Allen, without Dorrance Armstrong. Both those guys were already done for the day. By the time the Ravens pretty much broke out the Henry drill. And Tony Romo said it multiple times during the game, and he couldn't be more right. No other team in the league can trot out that kind of a running game with a guy like Henry in the backfield. And then you have to account for, oh crap, what is his name? The quarterback,
Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, Jackson. Thank you.
Oh yeah, such Lamar Jackson.
I'm having a mental breakdown at the moment. You've got to account for Jackson on every single play as a running back. You cannot ignore the man as a running back, and because they will just absolutely punish you. We're not seeing Cliff really run many designed runs for Daniels except around the goal line these days. Most of his yards are coming off the scramble drill. Baltimore is running designed plays specifically for Jackson at the 50-yard line, at the 30-yard line, either 30-yard line. They don't care. They'll run them anywhere on the field. So, we were a little hamstrung personnel wise by the second half, and yet the defense still gave a pretty good accounting of itself. You could argue we're a couple of bad PI calls and a lucky break on offense away from stealing a game in Baltimore or driving it to overtime at the very least. I'm not unhappy. This is the first defeat Monday I can remember in a long time where I haven't felt beaten up. I didn't feel great the opening weekend on Monday. I didn't feel like the team played good against Tampa Bay, and I thought, man, this is going to be a long season. I got to be honest. Boy, this is just going to be a rough season. And then we reeled off 4 straight. So maybe we reel off another 4 straight. And in 5 weeks, we're, at 8-2 and feeling very different.
Yeah, for me, I was in the chat too. There's a lot of highly emotional, extreme takes.
I went over the top a couple times. The sarcasm meter got broken a couple times. Trust me, I fully admit that. I might have had a couple adult beverages, but I just reached a point where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make it blatantly obvious how this sounds right now, to the point where John even had to kind of nudge me and say, hey, dude, settle down. So, yeah, I get it.
What happens in the chat stays in the chat, man.
Right. Yeah. It's all good.
Until we talk about it on our podcast.
I have a new goal in life. John never nudges me and says, settle down. This next week, I'm going to have to make him nudge
Let's try to push the envelope. Yeah.
Well, most of you guys are just so damn reasonable. You don't have any reason to.
Anyway, Tony, you were saying.
Oh, yeah. For me, this game, we couldn't run ourselves. We couldn't stop the run. And the timing of the penalties, like if that one on St. Juice where the receiver just fell, if they don't throw the flag and they punt back to us, you never know what happens. So to me, despite us not playing our best, we were still right in the game the whole time. So I thought overall it was encouraging, and especially with Jaden Daniels. I mean, his accuracy is ridiculous. You can't coach that. Some of his passes, like that 4th down touchdown to Terry, I mean, you just can't throw it any better. So overall, obviously we hope to pull out the win, but Baltimore's just further along in the process. And then this offseason, they added that monster, Derrick Henry. And we're also playing them earlier in the season too. It's not later in the season when they have to go through like the Cleveland defense, which is physical, or Pittsburgh twice. So they were mostly healthy too. So overall encouraged still, despite the loss. We hung right in there with them.
Paul, what were your takeaways?
Yeah, so yesterday I just tried to put everything into perspective. Obviously coming up a little bit short, ruined my Thanksgiving dinner a little bit last night. But that all being said, I just tried to remind myself where we are currently in comparison to the other teams in our division. I saw us go toe-to-toe with arguably a top 3 team in the NFL, and a team that can very likely find themselves playing in the Super Bowl come February. Meanwhile, you saw the Eagles scrape by Cleveland, a team that we just trounced a week ago. Yeah. Dallas, we all know what happened to them against Detroit. They've looked absolutely putrid on defense. And the Giants, well, the Giants are the Giants, right? They're just not going to put up enough points offensively to be a real threat, in my opinion. So in the grand scheme of things, we're looking pretty darn good right now in our division. We're sitting at 4-2. We lost on the road. But hey, 6 weeks into the season, we're still in first place in the NFC East. And we seem to be a team that is trending in an upward direction, while the other 3 teams in our division seem to be trending a bit in a downwards direction. So, if we can continue playing the way we've been playing and make some improvements and make some adjustments, I think there's a lot of promise and a lot of optimism looking forward in the season. So again, disappointed with how it played out yesterday, but trying to draw on the positives. And, I think this can hopefully be a game that propels us in the right direction moving forward the rest of the way.
So we always try to bring in someone better looking and smarter than the rest of us in this crew. To give
and sometimes we have to settle for Mark. Oh, sorry.
We couldn't find that guy. So we're gonna let's see what our buddy in Bavaria had to say about the game.
So this is what it looks like with the brim facing
Oh.
forward. Washington loses, you get the brim. Things that I didn't like. I didn't like the fact that I actually got disappointed that the Baltimore Ravens, arguably the best team in the NFL right now, right? Who's better than the Ravens right now? That we went into a game against them where I thought, you know what, we could win this thing. And I actually let myself get disappointed a little bit when we didn't. It wasn't so much the losing, though. What I didn't like most was the fact that the only reason that the Ravens got 500 yards on us is because they didn't need 600, which they could have easily gotten if they had wanted them. We were not slowing the Ravens down. We had a couple of decent series and 3 and outs. But I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I got the impression that anytime they really needed to score, they were going to be able to go down and score. Even if we had a lead late in the fourth quarter, I have absolutely zero confidence that the defense, as currently constituted, was going to be able to do the job. I understand that they wanted to contain and they couldn't afford to all-out blitz Lamar and do all of that. We just don't have the bodies. I think we are severely shorthanded on defense. And it's not that we don't have good players, it's that we don't have playmakers. We don't have guys who can disrupt games. I haven't looked at stats, but I know that Frankie Louvu was kind of neutralized by the Ravens, right? That we had one guy that they probably figured could really hurt him. They neutralized him through their scheme or however they did it. And I just kept waiting for someone on defense to flash, make a play, be the man, set a tone, and we just didn't have it. I just don't think we have the bodies, which we knew going in, and it's unfortunate that that's not going to get better. We will have better games. I suspect we'll have a better game this coming weekend because we're not a bad defense. We're just not ready to compete against an elite offense yet. That was my main takeaway from this game. Coaching, I'm going to reserve judgment on. I don't know what I can expect of Joe Witt right now, working with what he's working with. I think individual players could do better. But I just don't think he's got the horses to do the kind of defending that he would like to be doing. And I got to tell you, halfway through the game, I found myself thinking, I can't wait. I mean, I'm not in a rush to hurry through life, you know what I mean? But in a couple of years, with a couple of drafts and some playmakers, it's going to change. I think it changes everything on that side of the ball. I just think we're severely limited by a lack of blue chip defensive players. We need 2 or 3, and I think by the end of next season, maybe. But anyway, in this game, it was too much. We saw what an elite team looks like against a team with promise that's still got a ways to go. Things that I really, really did like. I love that Jaden Daniels did not run for 100 yards and have 20 rushes in an all-out balls-to-the-wall effort to win a game that probably could have ended up getting him hurt, and the fact that our defense could have given up 600 yards if it wanted to. I love that he stood in the pocket and delivered the ball down the field. He made all the kinds of throws that they told us that he wasn't going to be able to make, right? He read the field, he throws over the middle. And by the way, those 2 touchdown passes to Terry, this will probably be some of the narrative. In years past, Washington doesn't score touchdowns on those 2 drives. Those were elite throws. The 2 touchdown passes that finished those 2 drives in touchdowns. We haven't had a quarterback capable of making those 2 throws since, you tell me, Sonny, maybe.
Never.
Joe Theismann, maybe. Rippon was a gunner. He wasn't a touch passer down in the red zone. We haven't had that kind of elite passing skill in my lifetime that I can really remember watching. That's another thing that I can't wait for another year or 2 of seasoning and some more playmakers and speed. I watched a little bit of Zay Flowers running rampant through our secondary and around the end. I don't know, those of you who listen to this pod a lot may have remember me talking about what I thought we were missing preseason, and I was disappointed we didn't get, was a lightning bug. And I've seen now, and we all saw what a true elite lightning bug player can do on a good offense with a good quarterback. So am I disappointed? Yeah, a little bit, because it would have been nice to see us step up and surprise the world again. But I'm not surprised. And other than it sucks to lose, I'm not disappointed. I thought, we kind of hung in there and made a game out of it. And it's a one-score game. I know Baltimore let the air out of the ball towards the end. But we come away with this one with a learning curve, right? This is a big lesson learned, a good measuring stick, as stupid as that phrase is. It was a measuring stick game. And now we'll find out. We'll find out going forward if they can take this, learn from it, and we'll go from there. So, guys, enjoy breaking down all the deets on, I can't believe I just said deets, on offense and defense and special teams and all that. In Germany, I am not overly disappointed with what I saw, and I'm encouraged, again, both short-term for this year and long-term, the direction I think we're going. Feeling pretty good about things.
I just want to reiterate that for everyone out there that, yes, Mark did throw out deets.
Deets. Yep.
Only thing I had to add to what I thought Mark did a great job of summarizing just the whole game, but I don't know that I believe there was a lot that they learned in this game. I think that what they learned is that teams that have superior talent are a lot harder to beat. Just like we struggle with Tampa Bay. I'm not one of those guys that believes that they're figuring Jaden Daniels out. Jaden Daniels, when he had time and when guys got open, he made them pay. I don't think that's what's happening. Although Mark does make a good point about later on he'll talk about some of the tendencies that Jaden's showing. But I just think we played a team that had better talent. And I also want to throw out there that the officiating in that game, I'm not ever really big on blaming things on the officials, but that was a terrible officiating game. And that non-call on the Jaden Daniels roughing play, that somebody should get fired for not throwing a flag on.
John, that's twice in 3 weeks that we've seen us looking back saying, if it's another quarterback, that's a penalty.
I don't know. And again, I in the chat room, I was like, I want to see Dan Quinn run out on the
ever-loving mind.
Yeah. I want to see him losing his goddamn mind, because you cannot let that happen to your quarterback and not lose your mind on this. I guarantee you Jim Harbaugh is losing his ever-loving mind on the field.
Didn't we just have this conversation 2 weeks ago when he got hit on the sideline? Am I remembering correctly?
Yeah.
Where he was running to the sideline. He was about to go out of bounds, and he kind of got popped, and we all were like, well, look, if that was Pat Mahomes or pretty much any other quarterback, it's a penalty because of how they
and we see this bullshit where New York inserts themselves in games and pulls flags out of their rear end when no one's even asked them to do that, but yet that happens and no one steps in and says that's a roughing call, that's a personal foul. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I felt like there were 3 or 4 calls like that, and yet there were moments where I felt like the refs were spot on, even though they threw a flag to start with. The call on Terry, that they threw the flag and then picked the flag up.
Yeah, you're right.
On first brush, I totally agreed with the flag, and then they showed the replay, and I went, no, he got his head around. He could see what was coming. That's a good football play. But man, a couple of those PI calls and the should have been roughing on. And guys in chat were griping about holding several times. But I don't know how big a difference that would have made.
No,
Baltimore is one of 2, 3, 4 teams in the NFL that are just outstanding across the board.
Hold on, Bob. Hold on. I got to push back. When the receiver fell down and they threw the flag against, I think it might have been St. Jude.
Yes, that's what
that was a third down. That should have ended. And then it would have turned around, and if they scored a touchdown on that drive, if I'm not mistaken. So at a minimum, there's a 7-point swing right there. Okay, now what happens after that is up for debate. But that drive was only extended for that. And then there was a third down where Noah Brown was open, and the defender falls and grabs him by the collar
Yeah.
Oh my
And
God.
it was, I mean, his
Yeah.
jersey was hanging down, and I
Yeah.
saw it in real time in the chat. I said, that's a holding penalty, and they didn't. That was on a third down that would have extended that drive, and if I'm not mistaken, would have put us in field goal range.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's 10 points right there at a possibility. So who knows what could have happened? And I'm not saying we would have definitely beat him. Derrick Henry might have just had 3 more carries for another 50 yards and ended up winning anyway. But it's affected the game at a minimum.
Right.
Yeah. Well, but on a positive side, I think this team did learn something yesterday, John. I think this team walked off the field looking at themselves going, we had a shot at this. And we should have been closer. This is a game we quite probably could have won. I think every man in that locker room when that game was over was probably a little pissed. They didn't come away going, these guys are brilliant. They came away, every one of them heard Dennis Green in the back of their brain going, they are who we thought they were, and we could have beaten them. And that's got to be a huge boost to some degree, because you're not going to face another team like Baltimore this season. There is not another team on our schedule that looks even vaguely to be in Baltimore's class.
Right.
And the great equalizer is always the quarterback. So Bob, you're talking about how, we had that chance to beat Baltimore. When you look at the rosters, we're nowhere near where they are. And as I mentioned, the great equalizer is always your quarterback. Your quarterback always gives you a chance. And I mean, if Washington fans aren't sitting there this morning doing cartwheels over the fact that, yes, we may have found someone that is always going to give us a chance despite the deficiencies we have, then there's something wrong with those people.
Yeah, totally. And this is something totally kind of random that I noticed, but it feels like Luke McCaffrey is like the king of catching the ball, like a big catch, and then getting tackled at like the 2. He's like, I feel like every game he does that.
Is he on your fantasy team, Tony?
No, but I mean, it's like, oh, he's gonna score, and then he's like he's like almost there all the time.
One of these days, that kid's going to get into the end zone. He's not going to know what to do.
Yeah,
that's right.
Speaking of McCaffrey and the receivers, we saw something else yesterday we really haven't seen this season. We've talked about Jaden Daniels, and we've talked continuously about there has to be somebody on the end of that ball that's catching it. There were at least 3, maybe 4 outright egregious dropped balls yesterday. Yeah. Zacchaeus had 2, Noah Brown had 1, and if I'm not mistaken, Zach Ertz had 1. That any other game this season, they come down with that football. Yeah. I mean, it's not even like they were getting hit as the ball was arriving. Zacchaeus just tried to run before he actually had the football in his hands both times. And so there was a little sloppy play on our side of the ball that we haven't seen the last 4 weeks.
And I think, Bob, that's an excellent point. And I also think in a normal game, it's like, well, that shit happens, right? I mean, the players aren't going to catch everything. But in a game like that one yesterday, we had to be perfect to win that game. Mm-hmm. We had to be almost perfect. And especially when the officials weren't doing us a lot of favors. And I think that's why we were frustrated because, and Mark may be right. We may have put up 500 yards of offense and they might have put up 700, as a response to that. That's certainly possible, but we just couldn't afford. We needed all of those like 50-50 balls. We needed those to go our way. And really, like you said, some of those balls were flat out in the hands of the receiver. And I love Olamide Zacchaeus, my UVA buddy. And he's done a hell of a job. And he did a pretty good job yesterday in general. But that one that he dropped, you just can't do that. Yeah. Cannot do that if you're going to beat, if you're going to upset a Super Bowl contender on the road. It can't happen. So
a couple things. I don't know if you guys saw the picture of Jaden Daniels that's floating around Twitter now, where he was on the sidelines and he just looked like he was ready to run through a wall. And then there's a post-game tweet of a video of the tunnel as they're entering back into the locker room. These guys give a shit. And they give a shit in a different level. You know what I mean? Like, you can see how, I'm not going to say, just how pissed they are. And Dan Quinn even was asked about it. And I don't have the tweet in front of me. I was trying to pull it up real quick. But he essentially said, look, Jaden and his teammates were pissed off. And it wasn't necessarily because of the Ravens. It's because they know that they were, that they did enough wrong to effectively affect that game. That they did not play as well as they should have, basically. So I think this team and the leadership, obviously, that's a reflection of leadership, I think, beyond Dan Quinn. But that's winners. That's Bobby Wagner. That's guys that want to come in here and win. But speaking of leaders, unfortunately, bad news, John Allen. It looks like reported today is torn pectoral muscle. They said he's going to get a second opinion. And then I saw another report that he's going to have surgery on Friday. So I would assume that if he's going to have scheduled surgery, he's already had the second opinion, or he's pretty confident in the results. Pretty well likely that he is done for the year, obviously. And I don't know about you guys, but if he's on the roster next year, he's $17 million. If he's not on the roster next year, he's a $0 cap hit. So he's 31 years old. I wonder if, sad as it says to say, if John Allen hasn't played his last game wearing our colors.
Well, you guys know I'm in healthcare, and I can tell you 2 injuries you don't want. You don't want any injury in the NFL, but 2 injuries you don't want in the NFL are, you don't want to tear your Achilles,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't want to tear your pectoral muscle, because they just tend to recur. They're difficult to heal. Especially as you get older, and John Allen's probably on the backside of his NFL career. Not to say he can't come back, but they do tend to have a history of recurring. And we saw that. I can't remember who it was, but one of our players from 10 years ago tore his pec several times. Somebody help me out here. I can't remember who it was. One of our defensive players, but it is a tough injury to come back from. So he is almost certainly done for the year, and I hate to see that. But
wasn't pectoral muscle one of Scherf's problems?
I don't know about Scherf, but there was somebody that's I can't believe I didn't look it up before we got on the air tonight. But it was one of those guys that was like a physical beast that never lived up to his hype. Which of course that narrows it down to about 50 former Washington players, but
yeah.
Brian Orakpo.
Oh
yeah,
he tore his pec twice. Now I think he went on to have a career after that, but it's just a tough. I mean, it's your core. It's a core muscle, and you're using that core muscle, and everything you do as a big defensive guy. So anyway,
especially those linemen, because you're constantly punching,
grabbing, you're pulling, you're getting,
It's all upper body and arm strength, and you're pushing guys away from you, which is bench press effectively.
So anyway, poor John Allen. He's played hurt half his career here, which you get a lot of credit for playing hurt in Washington, because then people just say you're washed up,
you're soft,
overrated or whatever. But he has played banged up quite a bit over the years, so. But you can't really pay.
And he's played, and to his credit, he has played as a legitimate professional through some really bad years too.
Yes.
He has seen about the worst of the worst. That guy's watched us pick second overall twice. You know what I mean? Like, he's been on some bad football teams, and he's been a professional. And I was excited the day we drafted him. I was hoping he was going to be coming to be our Aaron Donald type, just that interior presence. And you kind of wonder, what would this team be like if we had him now at 24, not 31, and when he's at the top of his game or ascending, what kind of a difference maker. So fingers crossed he can come back. Maybe they talk to him in this offseason and restructure some additional guaranteed money, but he's not a top teen $1 million cap hit where he's making 17, 18, bring him back so he's still getting paid. He's still a member of the team and a rotational piece. But obviously now, like, the Mathis pick or the Newton pick starts to look kind of brilliant. You know what I mean? Because if we're gonna, we were just talking, Bob, you made the mention, hey, maybe they win the next 4 and end up at 8-2. If there's any chance that they do that, the interior, this whole D line is going to have to, be effective. And
so I know we want to talk about the game coming up on Sunday. Before we do, I just wanted to give a shout out to our friends at WSH on the Daily, which is a awesome Instagram page. They're also on Twitter. And I love WSH on the Daily because it's all Commanders all the time. And they talk about, they post update daily. They update numerous times per day. It's pictures, it's news, it's breaking news, it's stories, it's cool media stuff. But they just have a fantastic site. So check out WSH on the Daily on Instagram. Over 30,000 followers. So they're a massive presence on Instagram. They also have a Twitter presence. So we like those guys, and we wanted to give them some props. So we got I screwed up today. I posted that we were playing at Carolina. I got Carolina on the brain because I'm a rabid Charlotte Football Club season ticket holder with my brother, and we're in the playoffs, baby. So I've got Charlotte on the brain, but the game is actually home at Northwest Stadium, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And the Panthers, they're not looking so good, my friends. I'm not saying we're going to win the game by default, but they're not doing so well.
And BGO will be in the house. The flag right there will be flying on Sunday afternoon. Well, Sunday morning into Sunday afternoon. So anybody listening, if you want to come by, the flag will be up. Stop by and say what's up. Sorry. Shameless plug. All right.
So what are you guys thinking about? What are you guys thinking we're gonna see on Sunday?
So what I'm hoping that we see on Sunday is I'm hoping that we can see a team that has, in many regards, learned a lesson. When I think about this Carolina game coming up, I can't help but think of that game last year where we played the Bears at home on Monday Night Football and got absolutely blasted. And the situations are pretty similar, and there are a lot of parallels between it. If you think back to last year at the beginning of October, we were 2-1. People were thinking, hey, we, might have a shot at having a positive season here. We walked into Philadelphia, gave them a run for their money, ended up losing 34-31 in overtime. And everybody just took it for granted that the next week we would go home and just absolutely take care of business and blast the Bears. We didn't do it. And we got a similar situation here, having had that moral victory, so to speak, in Baltimore. What I want to see is I want to see this team just be able to take some confidence from that Baltimore game and just be able to move forward and absolutely handle the Panthers. There should be no reason, as to why we stumble against Carolina. But again, those kinds of things can and do happen, unfortunately, in the NFL. We have to show a level of maturity, and we have to show a level of progress in being able to just do what we need to do against this opponent.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Paul. I mean, and that's the different vibe right now, right? I mean, at least for now, like I kind of felt like we all maybe most of us knew that we were a long shot to beat Baltimore, but we all felt pretty solid that we weren't going to go in there and like shit the bed and embarrass ourselves, and we didn't. And in fact, I don't know if you saw the love that Lamar Jackson was giving JD after the game. But I mean, those Ravens, man, they were definitely respected what we brought to the table. It just feels like this is a different franchise. And so I'm not saying I wouldn't want to like bet my house that we're gonna crush Carolina on Sunday, but I don't have the same like total anxiety that I normally would have that we're gonna lose to clearly a lesser team. Dave Tepper is a disaster, man. That guy is an absolute disaster as an owner. I mean, you got a first-year head coach You got a first-year OC and a second-year DC, and they're probably going to be starting over again next year. That's just the way Dave Tepper rolls.
Mm-hmm.
So he is Snyder. He's basically a Dan Snyder type owner. I hate to say that, but he's a mess, and that team is a mess. It'll take them 5 or 6 years to overcome that draft choice that he imposed on his team, kind of like Snyder imposed the Dwayne Haskins pick on his front office. It's going to take them a long time to recover from that, especially if they keep firing their coaching staff. But it still doesn't mean that we can't lose any given Sunday. We all know it could be the worst scenario, the worst team in the league, and if you sleep on them, they can beat you on any given Sunday. So I'm not taking it for granted, but I feel pretty good that we're not going to go into our home stadium and not show up.
So a little bit of devil's advocate. You look at the box score from the Carolina Atlanta game this last weekend, and it wasn't as much of a blowout as it looks like on the scoreboard. The final score was 38-20. But the middle of the third quarter, it was 25-20. At halftime, it was 22-17. And an interception pushing for a touchdown led to 34-20. And then they turned it over on downs, pushing to try and make something happen, down by 14. And then yet another field goal by the red snapper, right? But, they played pretty good football through 2.5 quarters against an Atlanta team that was picked to win the AFC South this year by a lot of people. And they were on the road. Were they on the road? No, they were at home. Never mind. They were in Carolina. I thought they were in Atlanta. But I don't know. They've looked better since Andy Dalton took up residence under center. He's a significant improvement over Bryce Young. Not to say that Young won't someday come good, but for the time being, it's Dalton, and he's a KD veteran. And we've got a suspect secondary, like it or not. So I don't know. I'm not saying we're going to lose this game. I'm saying that this is one of those games. I feel like this actually could be more of a trap game than the Cleveland game 2 weeks ago. That's just
I don't disagree. I think they're a different team with Dalton. Not that they're a top-tier team with Dalton, but they are a different team with Dalton over Young. But at this point, and I hope the team understands this, Bob, there are no trap games on our schedule because we aren't in a position to think that we're better than anybody we're putting up. You know what I mean? Like,
fair.
I think I didn't expect us to beat Arizona. We went into Arizona and we handled Arizona. I didn't expect us to handle Cleveland the way we handled Cleveland. But to be fair, and I'm just tempering my expectations a little bit, we got beat by a superior team in Tampa Bay. We eked out a 7 field goal game against the rattled Giants team. And we just spent the last half an hour talking about how we're not on the same level as the Ravens. You know what I mean? So I think we're closer to – I think this team is closer to Baltimore than it is Carolina. But I don't think that the gap is some immense gap. This team needs to know that every win matters, and and I think they will. I think this comes back to leadership. I think Jaden's pissed off because he knows he left some things on the field. I think he also knows that some things were taken away from him on the field. And then on top of that, I think he's looking at it, and the offense is going to be looking at it like, hey, you know what? Let's not let the defense be the one to dictate the game. Let's go drop 30 on every team we go up against from now on. You know what I mean? So let's see where that takes us when where that mental fortitude is. But I think if we can get out early on these guys, I think we can just step on them. But if we let them linger, this is exactly the type of game that a couple weird bounces and we find ourselves on the wrong side of looking up at a double-digit deficit, at the beginning of the fourth quarter, and then we've become one-dimensional, and anything can happen at that point.
Yeah, I think in years past, I'd obviously be very anxious about this game, but I think this year with Quinn's leadership and everything, I don't think the team has the mentality of overlooking anybody. So I think I would be very surprised if we came out with that mindset. And then also we got 2 players from them from Carolina that are with Luvu and Chin, so they know the guys there. And from an interview I saw when we signed Chin, he was pretty pissed that they didn't offer him. So I feel like he'll probably lay some lumber there. But I just think with the new culture and the way things are going, Derek mentioned after the Baltimore game, everyone was pissed. They expected to win and play better. So I would be stunned if they didn't, if they overlooked the Panthers coming in.
I think one particular guy in Carolina we can't overlook is one of my Canadian counterparts, Chuba Hubbard. The guy's putting together a pretty solid season. He's got close to 500 yards rushing on a year. He's averaging almost 6 yards per carry. So I think priority number one needs to be to shut him down on Sunday. And I think everything should fall in place from there. But it's imperative, I think, that we make these guys one-dimensional. We struggled with a team like Tampa Bay. We struggled with a team like Baltimore as well. It's pretty hard to make those teams one-dimensional. They're very well-balanced offensively. But I think when it comes to Carolina, we have to take away the run. And I agree with you, Bob. Andy Dalton is one of those veteran presences that you can't take lightly. But I think if we take that run game away, I think that will definitely help us move towards success on Sunday.
Yeah, I see this game. There's some things that Baltimore did to us. We were really anemic on first down, so we were in second and long all day long. We lost the time of possession battle, and that was like big time for the first time this year. And the real reason we lost the time of possession battle was we could not convert on third down, which is something that we had been doing. We're still great on fourth down. I think we're like 11 for 11 on fourth down, something insane. But on third down, we looked very, very marginal against Baltimore because, hey, they have a great defense. But this is a team. This is the opposite with any given Sunday caveat, right? We know the margin between bad and good in the NFL is still pretty thin, which is why we love to watch games every Sunday. Mm-hmm. But in terms of statistics, this is a bad team. They're not good on offense. They're better. You guys are right. They're better with Andy Dalton under center, but they'd be better with Rex Grossman under center. I mean, let's not get carried away. Andy Dalton's not Joe Montana, but they're really bad on defense. Really bad. Like they're basically the mirror image of Baltimore. They have almost the worst rushing defense in yards given up. They're dead last in scores given up on the rushing defense, and they're not much better on passing defense. They're like 23rd in yards, 28th in scoring on passing. So to me, what that says is get B-Rob out there, rub some dirt on it, get him back out there, a heavy dose of Austin Eckler, a ton of B-Rob, and then do play action out the wazoo, because Jaden Daniels should be able to eat these defensive backs alive, as accurate as he is. So if we don't beat the hell out of them, I would be very disappointed, because I think we're just a much more talented team. That's just my,
You're not wrong, John. I'm just trying to keep the universe balanced, brother. Okay. Like at the end of the day, we should beat Carolina. I think I don't think anybody here thinks that's unfair to say. I mean, hell, even Vegas, the line just dropped. We're favored by 7.5. When was the last time we were favored by more than a touchdown against anybody in the betting?
Yeah.
You know, like so, and it's not just us that sees that. It's the nationally. You know what I mean? People are talking about a lot of different levels of what this offense and what this team is right now. So I don't think it's homerism or Ashburn syndrome. So to your point, John, you're not wrong. I think we're the better team. We're going to be the better team. But to be fair, my point was we are still young when it comes to this rebuild. We're still young when it comes to putting things on the field. So there's still things that need to happen, and I don't want to take anybody for granted. I want him to go in acting like every game is the biggest game of the year for him, because at the end of the day, that is going to be what's best for Jaden and all of this young. Speaking of which, can I just touch on something real quick? Can we not be worried about the rookies anymore? Sorry, as I loop back around to something we talked about 3.5 weeks ago. Brandon Coleman looks to be coming into his home. We just talked about Luke McCaffrey. Obviously, with Jaden, I'm not even going to mention him. Sanders still had a pick.
Sanristo had a big play.
Oh, yeah.
He had an interception. So, I mean, as the overall picture of the team comes together, everybody who's been losing their minds about defensive back. I said in the chat, I think the defensive back position could be potentially touched. Similarly, this coming offseason, the way that the linebacker position group was, outside of Sanristo, I mean, we could see 4 new starters, but I think you bring in a top-tier corner and then a reliable veteran, and you just shift down what we have 2 or 3 levels, and the entire unit just takes a major step forward. You know what I mean? So I'm not one to think that the entire we need to nuke the cornerback room. I just think we're asking people to do things they're not capable of doing. And if we put them into a position to succeed and we get better talent to take care of those other scenarios, I think the entire thing there's a trickle-down effect and everybody gets better from it. But yeah, Sanders still had a big pick this past week. So, and Manny Forbes was inactive, by the way.
And Jamie Davis.
Did you see Quinn was asked about Forbes being inactive today in his presser? Did you see his response?
They wanted more D linemen.
Yeah, they wanted more D linemen, and I think the unspoken part of that is he's a little light to be trying to tackle Derrick Henry, right?
I think it's also an acknowledgement. It's a nice way of saying
he's the 5th best corner on the team.
Can't cover them, so our best hope is to send the house, to put pressure in.
That's where I started to go too. Is you talk about adding cornerbacks, but I think you could argue that another pass rusher would make the current group of cornerbacks look better if we were, because I don't think even now we're getting the heat. Luvu's really come on the last couple of weeks, but I still don't think we're getting the heat on the opposing quarterback the way some of us really kind of expected this defense to do. They're a little comfortable.
To be fair, we sacked Deshaun Watson 7 times.
Yeah,
but then again, that was also Deshaun Watson was probably responsible for 4.5 of those.
Right,
but you're wrong.
And Jackson didn't give us that same kind of. He wasn't that gracious this weekend. I mean, we still got to him a couple of times, which really impressed me actually, because Baltimore's got a.
I think no matter what happens the rest of the season, what we as fans, what we need to be preaching, and I give Derek, I give Derek a lot of grief. He's a good guy, and because he puts up with it. But all of you guys really have been super reasonable, which is, look, we turned over 61% of this roster.
Yeah,
that's more than any other NFL team this offseason, and it still wasn't enough, right? We still have gaps. Well, you know what? You can't do it all in 1 year. You just cannot. You cannot turn over the entire roster. And even if you did, you can't find quality upgrades in talent to bring in that many new guys. It's just not possible. And people are like, well, we didn't do anything about the cornerbacks. We don't know. They may have tried like hell to bring guys into the agency. They may have been a pick or two away from grabbing a top cornerback in the draft. We just don't know.
Yeah.
So we need to slow our roll as fans and look at this is a gift. This season is a fucking gift.
Yeah, like you said, it's a gift. And then also, we're fucking 4-2. We're 4-2. Yeah. And the only loss is to Tampa, who's like one of the better teams in the NFC, as was proven. Yeah. And then the Ravens, who are 1 of 1. Lamar Jackson's 1 of 1. Eric Henry's 1 of 1. They have a monster fullback that no other team does. It's what more do you want?
Right.
That's my point. We did all that. We're so terrible, and we're still winning 60% of our games.
And the
Let's
one
calm
team
down
we
a minute.
played that legit sucks is Cleveland, and we rested our starters in the fourth quarter. I mean, it's like, if you look at it in context, it's like, I mean, come on.
Very true. So, a couple quick notes before we get into predictions. We talked about John Allen. Javonte Jean-Baptiste was seen with a walking boot after the game. I've reported it's an ankle, I believe. I'm not 100%. I haven't seen the update. We'll probably know more tomorrow, maybe. And then Dorrance Armstrong ended up leaving the game with a rib injury. So if you were talking about D-line, we have three new injuries along the D-line, one of which we know is not going to be playing on Sunday, and then two more that could be in question. So I would be curious, how that's going to work out. Fowler's probably going to see some more time on Sunday.
Obata's back.
Obata's back. We might see him at two different positions. He might play interior and out on the edges. But Mathis and Newton are going to have their chances right along with Payne. Obata has in the past played with his hand down on the interior. So he's got the ability to rotate there, but it's still going to be interesting what they do on the D-line. I guess from what I've been reading on the Panthers, too, they're not exactly weak up front in the middle. They've got two stud guards. So it's not going to be just, a Cleveland Brown situation where the floodgates open. I think they're going to be able to kind of push us around a little bit, especially on the interior. So we need some more edge help as well as maybe some linebacker help.
So let's hear. Go ahead, Bob. Sorry.
I was just going to say, name you didn't mention, with Armstrong ailing, this may be a game for Jamin Davis to figure out how to actually do something with his game. If he wants to resurrect his career, here's an opportunity because he's probably going to see some snaps with Armstrong likely sitting on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see what our brother from Bavaria, Marcus, has to say about the Panthers matchup.
Talking earlier about lessons learned, I think we are going to find out if we were able to learn some lessons from this Ravens game. The last 2 weeks, defenses in Cleveland and Baltimore have shown a blueprint of how to contain Jaden Daniels. You don't let him roll right. He's going to have to learn to roll left, and that might have to be built in with Cliff and start feinting left and doing some controlled rolls left to get defenses. Right now, they're just playing us like right-handed. Like when you defend a dribbler in basketball, if he can't go left, you crowd his right side and you don't let him go right. So I kind of think that's a little bit about what we saw. I expect Cliff to step up a little bit this week and give Jaden some more creative runs, and also continue to have him work from the pocket. Mostly on defense, I would like to see us bounce back and hope that Baltimore was just too good rather than came up with the blueprint to attack our defense. I don't think Andy Dalton is going to be able to attack us, and we're not going to fear him running. So we should be able to be a bit more creative on the pressure packages and maybe tighten up coverage a little bit, because I'm tired of seeing opposing receivers run through the secondary where on the TV screen you can't even see a commander. All you see is the receiver running free. We can't have that against the Charlotte Panthers. So, yes, I do think Washington bounces back. I think the offense clicks. I think Jaden throws a couple of more touchdown passes and runs for one. And I think Andy Dalton starts well, but ends up having a long afternoon in the second half at Northwest Field. So I've got a final score of Washington 33, Charlotte 20.
All right. I thought that was a really savvy point about the whole Jaden Daniels rolling to the right thing. Because I said earlier, I don't think NFL teams I don't think they can really look at film and figure out how to stop Jaden Daniels per se, because the guy's just good, man. The guy is very difficult to figure out how do you stop him. But I do think that's one thing we're seeing is he just tends to go right. He's not as comfortable going left. So they need to program that up on that virtual reality machine, man.
But to that point a little bit, I think he has shown he's shown the ability to step up and break right also. It's not just bailing right, going 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage. So what are they going to do? Okay, well, if your right defensive end is going to step back and play contain, almost to guard, okay, well, then you're just going to give Jaden Daniels time to throw. And he's got the ability to throw. It's not like he has to be moving. He can sit in the pocket and he can do what he needs to do. So, but you're not wrong. I think I said it in the chat, or it might have even been on a podcast last week or 2 weeks ago. If I'm Baltimore, I am doing everything I can do to try to prevent Jaden from breaking to the right side. Because if you do that, because that's where he kills you. He might beat you the other way, but he kills you rolling right. That bomb throw to Terry on the run was to the right, and a handful of other plays.
Well, and Derek, by the way, 90% of NFL quarterbacks are right-handed. Guess which side they're more comfortable rolling to?
To the right.
It's
exactly.
like it cracks me up. It's like he's right-handed. Of course, he's more comfortable rolling to the right. I mean,
exactly.
Common sense, but anyway.
And just to not to put too fine a point on it, but Baltimore leads the league in defense against scrambling quarterbacks. It's not like they give up a lot of yards to anybody. They contain everybody. And so I wasn't particularly surprised by that. Now, Daniels had one roll out to the left. I thought he had that ball up, and I thought he was fixing to throw it downfield. And it was about 3 plays after Tony Romo said he never throws it rolling left. And I thought, come on, prove Tony wrong. Do this, do that. Oh, and then he tucked it and picked up 5 yards of first down and went out of bounds. All right, well, we'll let it go.
Tony Romo was fantastic. I hate Dallas quarterbacks being commentators on our games, but I got to say, Tony Romo was fantastic.
Well, it's only because there's 15 of them and you get tired of hearing them.
Yeah. All right, guys. I guess it's prediction time.
All right, Paul, what do you got, brother? I just wrote your name down first. I just got random.
All right, so I am going to pick Washington to win this coming week. My score is going to be 26-20. It is not going to be easy. I think that Carolina is going to hang with us for a good 2.5 quarters or so. But at the end of the day, I think that having the more elite talent and the more elite players offensively is oftentimes the difference. And when I compare our two rosters, I'll take Terry McLaurin, Jaden Daniels, and a combination of Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler over Andy Dalton, Chuba Hubbard, and Deontay Johnson any day of the week. So I think the playmakers make the difference in the end. And how nice is that to say? We have a little bit more playmaking ability than the opponent for once. So, yeah, I'm going to pick us to rebound and get a win here.
I like it. John, I got you written down next.
All right. Well, I live down here in Carolina, and the Panthers remind me a lot of Dan Snyder, Washington in its prime. I've already
in its prime. Is that how we're going to refer to that?
Yeah.
In its prime,
Snyder. Yeah.
Prime. In its prime. So, Tepper has his hands and arms and legs neck deep in the franchise. I think there's a lot of drama. There's a lot of angst. I don't want to say they're in total disarray, but they just blew the number 1 pick in the draft on the guy who can't play quarterback. That's bad. When Andy Dalton is your savior, you're in deep shit. I'm just saying. So I do get everything. I respect everything you guys said about trap game. I'm not discounting that entirely. Because the players are human beings, coaches are human beings. But I see us as being pretty significantly better than the Panthers. Excuse me. And I think we're going to win big, 45-14.
Whoa.
I think it's going to be a get-right game, and that's all I got.
I love it. All right, I'll go next. I originally wrote down 31-13. I crossed out the 13 and changed it to 23. I think Vegas is a lot smarter than we are. 7.5 points. So I'll reel that into an 8-point advantage, 8-point victory. I think offensively we're going to be able to do a lot more than we did against Baltimore, obviously. Defensively, I don't think we're going to do as much as we did against Arizona. I think it'll be a little more in the middle. It's kind of a crime to give up 23 points to the Panthers, and I had a hard time trying to figure out how they got there. But like you said, our secondary is a liability at this point. Maybe there's some garbage time, Marcus Mariota time there in the fourth quarter, which we can only hope for, because that means that, knock on wood, it's because that we've given Jaden the rest of the afternoon off. But yeah, 31-23 Washington in an awesome home environment. Darryl Green, by the way, getting his number 28 retired this weekend, and I should have worn my jersey, but I'll be wearing it on Sunday. What do you got, Bob?
I got Washington 34-14, and if Brian Robinson plays, I think it's closer to that 40 burger John's talking about. I think this defense comes out mad. I mean, seriously, I think they come out angry. And Carolina finds that it's a very difficult week. Maybe we have a coming out party with Mr. Newton. I think we have the first defensive score of the year.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I don't know. I know I talked about not sleeping on Carolina and that they might be a better team than people think they are. I think Washington is a better coached football team than almost anybody in the league right now. Certainly better than Carolina, but I look at what Carolina did against Atlanta this last week, and I think Washington is a better coached team than Atlanta. And I think that coaching is coming out all over the place. I think we are seeing what happens when you have real NFL talent in the coaching staff, as opposed to some of what we've had in the past 10 years, 12 years. Real professionals who put the time in, who are motivated to win. I don't think it's just the players that are angry about what happened in Baltimore yesterday. I think the coaching staff is upset too, because players don't get upset unless everything comes down from the top. And on the field, the top is Dan Quinn. And I think the anger that you saw in the tunnel and in the dressing room from the players is a reflection of what they were feeling from their head coach, their coordinators, their position coaches. I think this is a whole unit anger, and I think they take it out on Carolina this next week in a really big way.
Tony, Ric Flair, what's up, brother?
All right. For this game, I think we bounced back. I got us 31-20. I think this week, hopefully B-Rob will be back, but even if he's not, I feel like we're going to rely more on our run game, like in previous games, to get us going. And then that in turn will allow Jaden to do his thing and just dice up the Panthers. I do think it'll be a little more closer than we thought in the first half. Then we'll start to pull away in the second half. And then also, I do expect the defense to come out more with their hair on fire and to get things going, especially with Lulu and Chin. I got this feeling that Chin's going to have some splash plays and send someone into next week during the game. So that's what I think is going to happen. I think we'll bounce back. And then also, if B-Rob is back, it allows Eckler not to have as much tread on him. So maybe a big return or some more explosive plays in the screen game or something too.
All right, boys. Well, just as a recap, last week Mark had Baltimore. Mark, myself, Tony, and Paul all had Baltimore. John gets honorable mention because he did pick 30 for the Ravens, but he thought we were going to get a late TD to take that one. And then Bob had us winning 24-21. So it's been an interesting year if we've just focused on picking our games. I think we're pretty much even if I'm remembering correctly, but I can go through and put a scoreboard together later. But if you guys out there listening want to jump on, you can absolutely jump on and throw your predictions into our podcast thread that we start every week. Every week, John puts up the official podcast thread. Also, we do an official game thread. So please jump in there and get in the discussion. Throw up your predictions. We'll include it. We can even give you guys shout outs on the podcast if you want. If you want to send us a direct message or anything, and we can do that.
And
but
make sure you check out WSH on the daily on Instagram. Our buddies over on Instagram, they have outstanding Commanders content pretty much 24/7 over and over and over again all day long. Pictures and news stories, great graphics, and all kinds of Washington Commanders content. So check them out if you get a chance. That's WSH on the daily.
Yep. And if you made it this far, obviously give us a like, a share, and a follow. Please hook us up with some love. Spread us out on the internet. You know, we take shameless plugs. We have no problem accepting those. And if that's everything, boys, I'll just say it again. That'll do, pigs. That'll do.